The House Oversight Committee was unusually tense that morning. Cameras lined the back of the hearing room, waiting to capture fireworks between two powerful voices on opposite sides of the political battlefield, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and guest panelist Judge Jeanine Pirro. The topic? Government overreach and political double standards. The audience? A nation hungry for a show. As the committee chair introduced Judge Pirro, she adjusted her blazer, leaned into the mic, and flashed the same defiant smile she'd worn for years on primetime. Across the room, Representative Crockett scrolled through her prepared notes, calm and unreadable. Everyone knew something was about to explode. Judge Pirro wasted no time. The American people are tired, she began, her voice sharp. Tired of political hypocrisy. Tired of lawmakers who pretend to fight for justice while playing partisan games behind the curtain. And frankly, Congresswoman Crockett, she turned directly to Jasmine, you're one of the worst offenders. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Cameras zoomed in. But Crockett didn't flinch. Excuse me? She replied coolly, folding her hands. Are you seriously coming here, under oath, lecturing me on hypocrisy? Coming from someone who's made a career screaming opinions, not delivering justice? Pirro leaned in, eyes flashing. I've spent my life defending the rule of law. You twist it for applause lines. The tension crackled like static. The chair tried to intervene, but it was too late. Crockett was already flipping to a bookmarked page in a manila folder. You want to talk about twisting truth, Judge? She said. Then let's talk about your own words. On national television, Crockett held up a transcript, highlighted and time-stamped. The room went silent. Let's roll the clip, she said, nodding to her aide behind her. The monitors lit up. Footage from Judge Pirro's own TV show played, a segment from 2 years ago where Pirro had passionately defended a politician caught in a scandal, the very kind of behavior she had just accused Crockett of tolerating. When our side does it, it's not corruption, Pirro had said in the clip. It's survival in a system built to destroy us. The room froze. Pirro's expression didn't budge, but her silence spoke volumes. Crockett turned back to her with a quiet, almost amused smirk. So when it's your political allies, Judge, it's survival. But when someone like me calls out injustice, it's hypocrisy. Even members of the opposition side shifted in their seats. The crowd behind the press barrier stirred. Pirro opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. The silence didn't last long. Pirro finally spoke, but her voice had lost its earlier fire. That clip is taken out of context, she said, forcing a tight smile. I was speaking about a different situation entirely. Crockett didn't even blink. With all due respect, Judge, context doesn't erase the double standard. You came in here swinging, hoping to catch headlines, but what you didn't count on was your own record coming back to bite. The audience murmured. Even some of the committee members exchanged raised eyebrows. Crockett continued, flipping another page. You want to talk about law and order? Here's another quote. April 2020, Fox News, sometimes bending the rules is necessary if it protects the people who really matter. Your words. Direct quote. Pirro narrowed her eyes. That was metaphorical. And I suppose your entire appearance here today is just performance art. Laughter broke out in the gallery. Pirro's face flushed. She looked around, realizing the momentum had completely shifted. Crockett sat back, calm and composed, letting the silence do the rest of the damage. Judge Pirro's usual poise had cracked. She straightened in her chair and tried to redirect. This hearing is about accountability in government, not my TV appearances, but Crockett cut in, her tone still sharp yet measured. Exactly. Accountability. Which is why it's ironic that you're here preaching about integrity when you've spent years normalizing selective outrage. The committee chair cleared his throat, clearly trying to regain control of the room. Let's keep this civil, but the damage was already done. Pirro turned to the chair, frustrated. I won't sit here and be ambushed by a congresswoman who cherry-picks sound bites and ignores the real issues. Crockett leaned forward, voice calm but cold. No ambush, Judge. Just facts. Yours. I came prepared. You came to attack. Another murmur rippled through the chamber. Then a moment of brutal irony, a reporter's phone buzzed. The headline lit up the screen and quickly spread down the press row. Judge Pirro called out with her own words by Rep. Jasmine Crockett, live on air. Pirro saw it. And for the first time that morning, her confidence visibly faltered. Judge Pirro tried to recover. Let's not pretend your record is spotless, Congresswoman. You've made controversial statements too, but Crockett didn't flinch. Oh, I stand by everything I've said. And if you want to dig into my record, feel free. I'm not the one hiding behind a TV persona while throwing stones from a glass studio. That line hit hard. Even members on Pirro's side avoided eye contact. Crockett's tone remained controlled, her delivery razor-sharp. You came in here to make this about personalities. I came to talk policy, justice, and truth. If you can't take heat for the things you've said, maybe next time, don't say them. A beat passed. No rebuttal came. The committee chair tried to steer things back to the agenda, but the room's energy had shifted completely. Pirro looked cornered, out-argued, out-prepared, and outmaneuvered. Social media was already exploding. Clips were being posted with captions like, Jasmine Crockett ends Pirro in under 5 minutes, Judge Pirro brought a script. Crockett brought receipts. The hearing continued, but for Pirro, the real damage was already done. After the hearing, Judge Pirro stormed out of the chamber without taking questions from the press, a rare move for someone who usually thrived on confrontation. Crockett, by contrast, calmly gathered her notes, exchanged handshakes, and even paused for a few media soundbites. One reporter asked, "Did you plan that takedown?" Crockett smiled. "I plan to hold everyone accountable. If some people got uncomfortable, that's on them, not me." Back at Fox News, producers scrambled. Segments were rearranged. Pirro's team issued a rushed statement claiming the clips played by Crockett were cherry-picked and out of context. But it didn't work. That night, multiple networks replayed the moment on loop. Commentators left, right, and center agreed on one thing: Pirro walked into that hearing ready for a fight, but wasn't ready for someone who fought smarter. On social media, #CrockettClapback trended for hours. Memes flooded the timeline. One showed Crockett calmly sipping coffee while Pirro's own quotes played on a screen behind her. It was brutal. And it was viral. By the next morning, public opinion had shifted, and fast. Mainstream outlets were calling it a masterclass in congressional composure. Even critics of Jasmine Crockett had to admit, she came in armed with facts and delivered a surgical takedown without ever raising her voice. Conservative commentators scrambled to defend Pirro, but even they struggled to spin it. She got caught in her own echo chamber, one analyst admitted on live TV. You can't preach accountability when your past words are one Google search away. Meanwhile, Crockett's office released a short statement: the Congresswoman will always stand firm against hypocrisy, whether it comes from politicians, pundits, or anyone else who confuses volume with truth. It hit hard without even naming names. Behind closed doors, Pirro's team reportedly held emergency meetings. Some insiders leaked that network executives were furious. She wasn't supposed to get owned in that room, one staffer said. Now we're playing defense on our own platform. Petitions calling for Judge Pirro to be barred from future congressional hearings gained traction. But Crockett? She kept it moving. Because she knew, the moment had already done what it needed to do. Inside Capitol Hill, word spread fast. Staffers, lawmakers, and aides from both parties were whispering about one thing: did you see what Crockett did to Pirro? Some Republican members privately admitted they had underestimated Crockett's preparation. She played chess, one aide was overheard saying. While Pirro came in swinging like it was a cable news segment. Back at Pirro's network, tensions reached a boiling point. One producer anonymously shared with a journalist, she insisted on going off script. Said she'd put Crockett in her place. Now we're getting flooded with calls asking why she wasn't ready for a basic pushback. Pirro herself went radio silent. No appearances. No tweets. No spin. Meanwhile, Crockett's team was flooded with interview requests, from cable news, podcasts, even late-night shows. But she turned most of them down. She wasn't chasing clout. She had already made her point. Later that evening, a short clip surfaced of Crockett talking casually with fellow lawmakers in the hallway, laughing off the moment. When someone throws a rock, you don't duck. You just make sure they know it bounced back. The clip hit 1 million views within hours. 2 days later, Judge Pirro finally re-emerged, on her own show. She opened with fire, trying to reclaim her image. This week, I was ambushed by a grandstanding congresswoman, she declared. Taken out of context by someone more interested in headlines than the truth. But the public wasn't buying it. Within minutes, fact-checkers were live tweeting contradictions. One clip after another showed her previous statements, unedited, fully in context, lining up exactly with what Crockett had exposed. By the time Pirro's show ended, hashtags like #deflection_denied and #judgeyourself_Janine were trending. And then came the final blow. Jasmine Crockett posted a single tweet. No tagging. No shade. Just a calm, confident mic drop. If your words can't survive the truth, maybe it's not the truth you're speaking. Tens of thousands retweets. Dozens of headlines. No further response from Pirro. The public had made up its mind. In a room built for power plays and grandstanding, it was calm precision, and brutal receipts, that won the day. As the week closed, the ripple effects of the Pirro-Crockett clash were still growing. Crockett, without ever raising her voice, had become a symbol of what many called the new school of political power, firm, unshakable, and fact-driven. News outlets ran op-eds titled, "How Crockett Redefined the Congressional Clapback, Judge Pirro Met Her Match, and Lost." Even members of the GOP were reportedly advising future witnesses, "Don't underestimate Crockett. She'll bury you, with your own words." Meanwhile, Crockett's popularity surged. Her fundraising numbers spiked. Her social media following doubled. Voters from across the country flooded her office with messages of support. She didn't grandstand, one viewer posted. She didn't need to. She let the facts speak, and Pirro crumbled. Behind the scenes, rumors swirled that Pirro had been warned by her own network not to appear before Congress again without clearance. She'd become a liability, not because she had been attacked, but because she had been exposed. One commentator summed it up perfectly: Pirro came to Congress expecting a brawl. What she got instead was a reckoning. Weeks later, the political world had moved on, mostly. But the Pirro versus Crockett exchange had left a permanent mark. Clips from the hearing were now studied in media training courses. Analysts called it one of the most decisive congressional moments of the year. And Crockett? She didn't just survive the storm. She became the storm. In interviews, when asked about the incident, she remained gracious. "I didn't plan to embarrass anyone," she said. "But I do believe in accountability. And if that feels like an attack, maybe it's time to ask why." Judge Pirro, meanwhile, kept her distance from Capitol Hill. Her reputation took a hit that never fully recovered. She continued hosting, but the fire that once defined her had dimmed. A single confrontation had exposed the fragility behind the persona. And across America, the moment lived on, symbolic of a new kind of leadership, sharp, steady, and fearless. Crockett didn't win with noise. She won with truth. And in the halls of power, that was louder than anything else. Though weeks had passed, the aftershock of the Pirro-Crockett clash was still being felt in subtle but powerful ways. In political circles, a new phrase emerged behind closed doors: "Don't get Crocketted." It was a warning to pundits and politicians alike: come prepared, or risk being dismantled by calm precision and airtight receipts. Think tanks invited Crockett to panels. Late-night hosts referenced her moment with Pirro as the gold standard for holding power accountable without theatrics. Even critics admitted, grudgingly, that her composure under fire was masterful. One clip, especially, kept resurfacing online: Crockett, leaning forward with quiet confidence, saying, "You brought drama. I brought documentation." The moment had become iconic. Meanwhile, congressional staffers reported an unusual trend: witnesses now double-checked every public statement they'd ever made, just in case they had to face her. And Judge Pirro? Her public confidence had returned on-screen, but her off-screen influence had shrunk. Invitations to speak before Congress dried up. Network executives quietly shifted her role to less controversial topics. She wasn't cancelled. But she was contained. Jasmine Crockett, on the other hand, had leveled up, from rising voice to political force. Not by yelling. Not by name-calling. But by doing what most couldn't, making the truth impossible to ignore. Months later, what had seemed like a viral political moment was now being recognized as a turning point. Jasmine Crockett's profile had risen not just in popularity, but in respect. Behind closed doors, senior lawmakers began including her in more strategic meetings. She was invited to contribute to major legislation and had even started mentoring younger representatives on how to remain calm under pressure. When asked in an interview about her clash with Judge Pirro, Crockett simply said, "That moment wasn't about me. It was about the truth winning. Loud voices don't scare me. Lies do." Meanwhile, media outlets quietly updated how they handled political segments. Editors became more cautious when quoting pundits known for fiery commentary. One producer admitted, "After what happened with Pirro, we don't air those kinds of unchecked monologues without backup anymore." Crockett changed the playbook. Pirro, while still on air, had become more restrained. Her audience noticed. Some called it growth. Others, defeat. But Crockett didn't revel in it. She remained focused, steady, and rooted in the work, not the noise. Because for her, this had never been about a win on camera. It was about setting a standard. And now, no one walked into that committee room without remembering: receipts talk. Everything else. Just volume. A year later, political retrospectives began naming key moments that reshaped public discourse, and Jasmine Crockett's dismantling of Judge Jeanine Pirro ranked near the top. It wasn't just a viral clip. It had become a blueprint. Political commentators pointed to it as a shift in how truth was defended, not through shouting matches, but through precision, preparation, and calm dominance. In a sit-down interview marking the anniversary of the hearing, Crockett was asked what she thought when she played Pirro's own words back to her. She smiled. "I didn't do it to win. I did it because people deserve better than empty outrage. I brought receipts because the truth doesn't need to shout, it just needs to be heard." That quote became a poster on college campuses and a headline in editorials. Meanwhile, Judge Pirro, while still a figure in media, had never fully reclaimed her old stature. Her name was now tied not to dominance, but to a defining defeat at the hands of someone who never raised her voice. And for young women entering politics, especially women of color, Crockett's moment became legend. Proof that you don't need to match chaos with chaos. You just need to be ready, and unshakable. The moment had ended. But its echo? Still loud. Still lasting. Still hers.